Let's go. Hello and welcome to the Breaking Free podcast. I'm your host, Nathan Francis, and today I'm very grateful to be joined by Luiza. She was in the women's roundtable, which when this goes up was last week. She's got a really awesome story. She's pretty powerful. She's an astrologer. She's an influencer. She does a lot of awesome things, so many hats. She has a pretty cool story of awakening. We've just spoken for the last hour and 20 minutes about a whole heap of different things that one day I'll share. I'll share publicly one day. Actually, part of it's in my book, which is coming out soon. But anyway, I want to introduce Luiza. Luiza, welcome to my show today. Since our roundtable chat that's now live on air, I was always wanting to get your story out there and promote you and your message and your work. You're very vocal in the women's roundtable about some different women's issues, so we can talk about them as well. But your story for a start, we'll focus on that. Like what welcome first, and what sort of awoke you to the truths that I separate them. So it's like the truths of the world and the truths that existed within you as well. So your sort of healing and the truths of the world. So welcome to my show and looking forward to this conversation today.
Cool. Well, thank you for having me, and thank you everyone for tuning in. I'm really excited to share with you what I've experienced and what I know. I hope it's not going to be our last chat, because you and I have so many things that we love to talk about, Nathan, in this short time we've been able to talk. And I think what I can go from is starting out with my kind of how I awakened. But before I get to that, what I really want to talk about today, and hopefully like there's people that's going to be able to listen to this and take on something that I've experienced, and I hope that I can help. And it comes down to self-empowerment. And as someone who a lot of my life, when I was younger, when I was in school and adolescent and teenager and whatnot, I have felt somewhat just squashed, just by being myself. And I know there's a lot of people out there that this happens to them. I know a lot of people out there experience this and may not have even known that they do still experience this, or haven't really awakened to the fact that this is happening to them. But people are going to hate you because you're a bright, shining light. People are going to hate you because you're happy. People are going to hate you because you have a gift. And people are hate you because you're just you. You could be anything, and people are going to dislike it regardless. And I think that people really need to know, those souls really need to know that you can actually step out of that and be who you were again, be like the soul that you came here to be, rather than squashed by society and what they kind of wanted you to be. And it also comes down to either family members, it could be friends, work, like general society as well can program and make you less of a soul, less of a being than what you intended to be in this lifetime. And I think I just really want to talk about that, because like I said before, it's something that I didn't really pick up on until about maybe last year before, is that I've just been shat on like my whole life. And it was never by my family. My family are some of the best people I've ever met in my life. Like all of the ones that I'm close with, which is like most of it, like my mum, my grandparents were one of them, my grandfather, he passed, my auntie, my cousins, like, my uncle, they're all really beautiful people, and they've all loved me since I was very little. And then I went to school and I just gave the same love that I knew how to give, because I grew up with a lot of love. And I know that a lot of stories that get shared nowadays is all like hardship in families. And I think the only hardships that I really had in my family is that we were really strict, because we're Serbian, and that's just what we knew, which is fine. Like that's, it wasn't anything overly bad. But I think where a lot of my changing and me kind of morphing into something else was to do with friendships and relationships that I'd formed when I went to school, and how I was made to feel for being me, basically. Yeah. So I don't know if you've ever experienced this, Nathan, but sometimes I feel like you have, from the conversation that we had before, there'll be like a flashback of moments in time, and like a boom, 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 boom of all moments that you experience. And I had this last year flashback of moments of like how people really perceived me, or how people really, really wanted to treat me, how people like looked at me and how I felt. And I was always so chatty, which I still am. I was always so bouncy and bright, and I just wanted to like help people and give love and just have a good time and just be happy. And I just remember just feeling so just squashed, but I just never really could put it into words. I never, because I was, maybe like 10 years old. And I was like, God, why am I being told this really interesting information? Or why do I feel as though I can't fully express myself? So that was like one of the starts of my throat chakra just closing right up, because I couldn't really fully express. I was made to feel like this is a really wild thing. And I don't really think I've ever spoken about this, but I'll never forget the day I was sitting in class and this girl that I used to be friends with, she looked at me and she goes, you know how your skin's so clear? Because I don't have any freckles and I've never had freckles. And she's like, your skin looks really, because your skin's so clear, it looks like you're wearing makeup all the time. And I was like, okay, well, I'm not. I'm like 12. Like, I'm not wearing makeup. And she's like, oh, well, you look like a slut. It looks really slutty. And I was like, oh. I was like, what does this mean? Like, what does this mean? And I was just baffled. And it's moments that you like that I remember. And I was like, okay, well, I need to be like less. And I remember a group of friends saying, okay, like you act too immature. Like you need to act less loud. And I was like, okay. So I had to try and like quiet down, but I didn't realize that that's not what I should have been doing. But I guess because like, I just felt like, okay, well, is this what everyone's doing? I was like, you're young, you're impressionable. And I just kind of felt like that was just not really me. And then you move to like other groups of friends where you just really kind of feel like you didn't belong. And I guess like I still have 4 friends from high school. They weren't in my grade, but we love each other very dearly, and we've been through like just so much growth together. Like, and while we like don't talk all the time, we have a lot of love for each other. But I've experienced just don't be you. You're too much of this. And then when I fight back, when I have, because I do, they're just like, Louise is a bitch. Louise is up herself. Louise is this. Louise is that. And I'm like, no, I just stood up for myself and you just didn't like it.
Yeah.
But I'm also the person, I've always have been, to tell people to stand their ground. And through a lot of my friendships, when they've had issues, I'm like, no, like stand your ground, like fight back. You can do this, really kind of being on like their team and pushing them into kind of being a better version of themselves. But I just kind of like, I never obviously got that back. I do in my friendships now, and I have in my friendships that I've remained, but that's just things I never really got to experience. And I remember realizing this, and I was like, a lot of my friendships weren't really real. Yeah. Which is it's a sad reality, but I just also knew that they were part of my evolutionary journey. I knew that like I put these people here. We're going to talk about it in the afterlife. Like, oh, you did so well playing this person in my life. Yeah, cool. Like, you helped me grow. That's what I can see. That's what I can envision. But I just, in more towards in my mid to late 20s, because I experienced this over and over and over again, just not feeling like I could be me, feeling like I was talked about, feeling like I was shunned, feeling like, it's not my fault that I was born with just such an energy. And people, like women and even men, when you have a really, really beautiful energy and you just want to give love, you are going to get shut on. And I'm sorry, but it's just going to happen because you're so much brighter than anyone could ever comprehend. But what I'm here today is to tell you that like you can actually find that back again. And I found that back with doing like a lot of kind of healing, a lot of connecting to the inner child and connecting to the energy of like the child and kind of what you want to do, what they wanted, what did they want, and what can you be from that? Which is, I think it's really important to connect back with that child in you that just wanted to give love, that child in you that just wanted to do all these exciting things and explore the world and delve into things he wanted to do without shame. Because we're so shamed, man. We're so shamed in society. Like you could pick something up the wrong way and you could have just been like, oh, well, that was weird. What's fucking weird? What is weird? Weird is wonderful. Weird is what makes you. So I think like that's like the baseline of it. And it was even up till like last year, I just knew I shouldn't have been with certain groups of people. Like I would sit there and I would come to and I would be like, what the fuck am I doing with these people? Like, why the fuck am I here? Like this, like what these you know, not really my kind of people. Yes, but I'm a sucker for seeing the good in everybody. You know, I'm the sucker of going, you know, there's a really good traits of this person. I can see the potential in this person. I can see all of the, oh my God, you know, I swear after they heal, that could be great. Like, you know, that's a really optimistic way of living, but sometimes it's not overly tangible for this time. And I've done this, and I still do this now, which is something I do need to help is I'll, after like the friendships, and a lot of friendships will snap really quickly. And I'm like, oh, okay, like the universe will fling people out, like flick them like little bugs. And I'm like, oh my God, like they weren't meant to be here. And then the ego comes in. The ego's like, why the fuck were you friends with that person? Like, what is wrong with you? Like, I'll beat myself up because I didn't have enough discernment at the time to pick up that this person wasn't right for me. And I inherently did deep down, but it was all like the mushy stuff that I still believe people could be good, that I still have, you know, that I never really lost that, even though over time, like, you know, back in my mid-20s, I just became more of a bitch. I was definitely snappier. I was snappier. I was a bit more mean. And I didn't love that at all. I didn't love that part of me. But you know, and I've managed to find again more like the love that I have and like that sweetness and softness that I've always known that I've had. And I've always just wanted to give love. So yeah, I just want people to know that this isn't really spoken about a lot. I don't really get to see a lot of people talking about how they've been made to feel over the time. They feel squashed, and a lot of people talking about what their families do it. I know the families can do it a lot, but this is just like you coming in and everyone around you just did not want you to be you. But fucking like it takes time to come back out of that other side, but you definitely can be you. You definitely can be like that warm, like beautiful light that you were meant to be, because every single one of those people have a gift, right? They have a gift for the world, and everyone who looks at them like a threat does not want them to share their gift to the world, does not want them to be in their power, does not want them to step up in their power, does not want them to experience their life to the fullest, because these people are the game changers. These people are here to do things bigger than what anyone can comprehend.
That hit home to me after what we were talking about for the last 2 hours.
Yes, right. Yeah. The game changers are going to get squashed. And if you are a game changer, if you're someone who is going to do great things, there is highly likely, I say with a lot of confidence, that you have been squashed through time. Not even in this life, probably in other lives too.
Just imagine if we had recorded our last 2 hours.
Is the public ready for that?
Not yet.
Not yet. We will soon.
I'm just sitting here. I'm like, oh, this has happened again. So quite often with the Breaking Free podcast, Luiza, if you go back and listen to a couple of my old episodes, you'll see that a lot of my guests say some things and then I sit there and don't have anything to say because it hits home to me.
Oh.
So thank you for that moment.
You're so welcome.
Obviously, I already know I'm here to be a game changer. We've spoken about that before, but it's like, if you're here to do something great that's beyond your wildest dreams, then yeah, people are going to shit on you along the way. And I've experienced that, still do. It's just part and parcel of the journey. But yeah, such powerful advice there, Louise. That's really awesome. Thank you for sharing that.
That's okay.
But what I was going to ask you though is, I was getting those. You know, you were talking about those moments, those memory flashbacks.
Yep.
I've been getting them like a lot lately. So.
I don't know if they come to you like a layer, but mine come.
Mine are more brutal than that. Mine just come up and they hit me all at once.
He slapped by the memes.
Literally, yeah. Oh, I did a meditation a few weeks ago. I've shared this too. I did a meditation a couple weeks ago, and I just sat there and just cried it out. Like every version of me that ever existed. It was like the young version. It was the drunk version. It was the sexual version. It was the what do you call it before? We're talking off air. You said I was. The disrespectful towards women version, that all came there. I'm like crying all this out.
By the way, I did not attack him.
No, I disrespected women for a long time, and that's just part of my journey. But if I had done this 4 years ago, it could have been a different outcome. But anyway, that's another story for another time. But just onto this chat, it's like, people probably have these things come up all the time, some memory flashbacks, and it's how we deal with them. And for me, it's literally going back and sitting with that person or that child and telling them what it needs to hear. It's like, well, that drunk version needs to hear that this is comeback story. that little child needed to know that he's heard, he's seen, he's valued, he's loved, he's appreciated.
Yeah.
It's those real deep moments. And a lot of people tend to sedate these things and tend to numb these things. It's like, well, bring them in and face that now.
Yeah. Yeah. Inner child stuff's really intense because like every time I've gone down a meditation, like with my inner child, like,
but it's more than just inner child. There's like versions of you that only existed last year that you probably hold some stuff over. Like that's for me anyway. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it starts at the child though, I guess. Yeah.
It starts at the child because it's just such an impressionable little thing, you know?
Yeah.
And every time I go to my inner child, like I just like look at her, like she's just like the best thing in the world.
She would be now.
Yeah. And I just like, and I look at her and I'm like, would she have been proud of like this woman? And I'm like, and yes, you know, like I loved anything that looked like princesses or anything that looked like pretty with like long hair. And like I've created that now with my look. I've done what she would have wanted. But I was gonna say something else, but completely slipped my mind.
That's okay.
But yeah, so it's pretty powerful stuff. But actually, no, I remember this I've seen on TikTok before, and I haven't just seen it once. I've seen it a couple of times. And it's very, very powerful. It's a little esoteric, but you know, I'm sure that your listeners are aligned.
Yes.
But when you go back and heal certain parts of your memory, you're actually in that moment, you remember that time that you felt really good after a moment of crisis. So say, for example, if you had a moment of crisis, then you said like something washed over you and told you that it was okay. That's your future self come in and told you it's going to be okay.
Oh,
yeah. So that's because our timelines and like are not linear, right? They're existing simultaneously all the time. So when I jump into a moment where I felt so hurt and upset about something, I've gone into that and just gone, you know what, you've got this, it's okay. And remember in that moment, when I said to myself, it's going to be okay. That's our timelines going, okay, that's you healing like constantly. You're going back and forth, zigzagging through healing yourself.
I have been since the start of July.
Yes. So you've gone back, and then if you dig deeper, or if you have any time or moments that come to you and you go, oh my God, I remember like that moment that I was just so distraught and something came over me, told me it was going to be okay. That was you the whole time. It's always been you. Everything you've experienced and been through, you have been there by your side the whole time.
That's so powerful. I have goosebumps.
It's beautiful. It's a really
it is.
Yeah, and I came to it maybe like a couple of years ago, and I'm like, it's just only been me. You have relationships and you have best friends, you have parents, but it's just you have just got your back every single day, all the time. And even like past you goes fucking fixes things, you know, and future you goes into help. Yeah, tells you. And I also listen to the other thing, your intuition which makes sense. Your intuition is your future self going, no, like, let's not do that because it turns out shit. And we don't listen. When you don't listen, it turns shit. Like literally yesterday, my intuition works on such a fast rate to the point where like it bitch slaps me. Like I went to go fill up my big jugs of water because I fill up with like a special water because I don't drink tap water because it's putrid.
It's another rabbit hole for another time, but I think most of my listeners will know that the tap water's crap.
Yeah. So I fill up with this like water. It's like a vending machine of like 7-stage reverse osmosis water.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and it's just like around the corner of my house. I get my little jugs and I, drive my car down the road, fill it up. And I remember like standing them up on the back seat, and a voice in my head said, "Don't do that." And I'm like, "No, I won't turn the corners heavily. Don't do that." And I was like, "No, it'll be right." So I stood up these jugs and got in the car. I drove it within seconds. Water started going all over my seats, and I was like,
"They told you told yourself not to."
I was like, "You bitch." I just couldn't be bothered putting them in the front seat. Like it was just like a lapse of like human laziness.
Yeah, future you's like, don't do that. And you're like,
got
nah.
me in a second. And then it was just like, told ya. And I'm like, oh. Yeah. So
that shit happens to me. Used to happen to me. It happens to me all sometimes. Like, yeah, I can resonate with that.
Yeah. Yeah. In an instant. It's just like, you listen to me or we're going to see. And then I see.
Yeah.
Experience it.
How'd you go up the water? You clean it up, did you?
Yeah, and it kind of like soaked in and left the windows open. It was fine.
So you've always been obviously very gifted as a kid. Did you ever have that power taken away from you as a child?
I think my power of intuition has always been really strong, but sometimes I didn't really listen to it.
Yeah, it was same here.
As a kid, I was very fantasy orientated. Like my whole internal world was just beautiful.
Yeah,
Like
same.
I all of my toys had all their own voices, their own names, their own like characteristics. I played in a complete fantasy world.
Did you have imaginary friends?
Oh yeah.
Same here.
Had a few of those.
Turns out they're real. There's a spoiler alert for people that are just listening in now. There's a spoiler alert. Turns out they're actually real.
And even like mum's like, you used to play so much as a kid in your own fantasy world because I just loved it. Like I would talk about like all my characters and my toys, and mum's like, that's so cool. Like she was because my mum knows she's gifted like that too. But I just remember like always being scared of the dark as a child. I'm like, I just knew shit was there. I fucking knew shit was there. And I always said, don't present yourself to me. Like, I just don't want to see you. And I used to this day, I'll still like think about that when it's dark. And I'm just like, hang on a minute. Like, I know you motherfuckers are here anyway. So like, it's fine. But I see them like slide past me rather than looking at them directly. Because I told them, I was like, at the time when I was awakening properly, I was like, do not show yourself to me. I'll just like combust. Like I won't be able to handle it.
What triggered your awakening?
Yeah.
So what sort of triggered that for you?
Do you know what really triggered that for me? It was, I started properly awakening. No, I started dabbling in meditation. I was meditating for maybe like.
What got you there though? Like, was it like a post on something? Was it like a book you saw somewhere? Or was it a
no? I've always been interested in the metaphysical.
Okay.
I was a metaphysical fan. Like I was obsessed with Atlantis, still am. Obsessed with Bermuda Triangle. Obsessed with like fantasy. Obsessed because I just really believed it was real. And then I started meditating a little bit more. Like in my early 20s, like I would just dabble in it a little bit, watch YouTube videos, and then it was more like 2015, 2016, 2017, I started like understanding manifestation. That's your first steps of awakening, is when you start like, you do meditating, a little bit of yoga, and you're like, oh, I can manifest everything, because you don't have like all your subconscious blocks are still like hidden. So you're manifesting on like a really high vibe, and you're like, oh my God, I can manifest this money and this car and this. And I was just having all this fun. I was like fucking Harry Potter. Like it was the best time, you know? And then all of a sudden, 2019, I did a fitness competition. And it was a very difficult time for me, because I've got like mad body dysmorphia, and I still do a little bit, but we're healing that. And I plummeted because I was starving. Yeah, I was angry, and my poor like boyfriend Nathan, he just dealt with me being a monster of a person. And then after that, I came out of it, but I was still like, I just wasn't feeling okay. And then I obviously just battling with myself because I'd gained weight. Like I was like fucking 8% body fat, lost my period, you know, all this sort of stuff. And all weight started putting back on, and I started just losing it. And then all of a sudden, like, I wasn't feeling right. And I just plummeted into like darkness. And then I plummeted into like, okay, this isn't just like dysmorphia, post-comp depression. This is something deeper, to the point where like I started really realizing when I was like crying in the shower by myself, and I was like, oh no, I was like, you're going through something. I was like, you're going through something big. And I'll never forget that I went to a tarot reader healing lady, and she was in Ipswich, in kind of Ipswich area. And it was in 2019. She goes, yeah, look, you're starting an awakening process. She showed me a bunch of witches that are like, that are in my lineage. And they're just like, okay, you know, these women want you to wake up. She told me that something was going to happen in 2020 that was going to change the whole world. We all knew what happened. And I remember sitting there going, oh my God. And it was interesting because my awakenings happened during COVID. So my dark night of the soul really like flew out, you know. And I still dabble in and out of that, but I know how to deal with it better, more like it's quicker. The loops become wider, right? So you know what I feel like when you're going through dark night of the soul, when you're going through awakenings, the first part is just treacherous. It's like you're going through the trenches. You are like, you know, level 1 of, because you're realizing everything. You're scared. You're questioning reality. You're questioning everything. And
but you're not only questioning reality, sorry to cut you off, but you're questioning yourself too.
Oh,
like you're questioning why you're here and what you're here to do, and that you've lived this life. For me, it was 27 years. It's like, like you got to face that too. Not just the truths of the world. It's like my whole being and life was a lie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like it was, we're being told a lie, but we're also living that lie.
Yeah.
Like dealing with that.
Yeah. Big time.
Yeah.
And I just remember like hating, like I obviously never really loved the news that much, but I remember like watching it. I just like, obviously,
I was the same. Yeah.
It was awakening. I was just like, this is just shit. And this is pure shit. And then just like realizing that reality is just different. And because I'm still in my process, my journey, like we all are, I can kind of tap into things more comfortably now. Like when everything starts to really, like I'll have moments where everything starts to really look like a simulation.
Yeah.
Everything starts to look a little bit like pixelated in 3D. And I'm like, oh, whoa. Like, you know, when I saw the other day 5 or 6 white cars in a row, and I was like, really? Are we not that creative? Like, you know, but yeah, it that was just because, and my ego and I have this very interesting relationship.
I love ego relationships. Tell me more.
She's very strong. She's very like myself. He's very.
That's what I'm about to say. Yeah.
Yeah, she's very you know, and I battle with her a lot because she keeps me safe and she just wants to protect me. So she's just like, you know, she's the one that says to me, why the fuck were you friends with that? Like, why would you do that? Like, you know, these people are not for you. Like, it's her, but I know why she's doing it. So I have to kind of really battle and come to equilibrium and be like, no, this is what we did. It's okay, you know, and just making her feel safe.
Yeah, that's what I do with me too. It's like the same thing. Mine will come through and be like, well, why'd you treat that woman that way?
Yeah.
Like, why the fuck would I do that? And I'm sitting in that too. It's like,
and it's like, it makes you feel bad. It makes you feel bad. And you're like, it's part of the journey. And they're just like, oh, well, you should have known better. And like, but no, like, I'm not getting shunned by society. Like, she's just on my back, you know? Like,
it's so powerful, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's getting to that, because you're never going to get rid of the ego. Like, as I see a lot of things on, it's just like, how to get rid of the ego, and it's just like, that's not possible. Like,
I was gonna ask you about that. These gurus that are saying all this bullshit about the ego, and that's like, well, we all need a little bit of the ego. We can't shed it all.
You can't, because but the ego is
it's also part of us,
the human self.
Yeah,
you contracted with that. That's who you contracted with. You just got to work together with it to allow it to protect you, but also tell it, hey, I'm trying something different. This is safe. You allow me to do this. And kind of like, I remember one of my spiritual healers, she told me, she goes, treat it like a little bit of a child. Go distract it with something, which is a conversation another time. Make it feel okay. Make you feel okay in your decisions, and then move forward. Because mine blocked me for many years, but I've also have been blocked by a lot of other things too. So yeah, but the ego is, she's very headstrong.
Well, we spoke about that off air. You should be very proud of yourself that you're sitting here being able to share your story. Yeah.
This is something I've really wanted to do for a really, really long time. This is something I've wanted to do since I started Imperium Goddess back in 2020 or 2021.
Well, I'm very grateful that the universe brought us together so I can share your story.
Likewise. Oh, it's been so beautiful. I've wanted to share my story, and I've got like YouTube episodes written, like, because I love writing, written, like, and I just left them.
Are they still there?
Yeah, I haven't recorded them.
Give them a whirl.
And I just kept them there, and I'm like, one day I'm going to do this. Like, one day, like, I'm going to. There's a blockage that needs to be released. And
once you release that, we'll put your YouTube channel in the show notes, and you can start the process. What do you reckon?
Yeah. Oh, thank you. But yeah, so I made my first video last week about like sharing.
I saw it. Yeah.
Which is what you and I have spoken about, and what I spoke about just then. Because I just feel like there's just, people need to know. People probably don't really know, or don't really know how to speak out about it further, or realize that they've been squashed their whole life. And I'm going to tell you that when you realize how you've been treated, and the light switch goes on, and you get this flashback of like, every time someone looked at you a certain way, they looked at each other, like when you spoke, teachers, like they'd snarl at you, find you, and that feeling that you just felt like you were just annoying someone. It's very minuscule, and I tucked that away, and they all came out, and I'm like, oh my God, people just hated me for being me.
Did you find it like also like a confidence thing too?
Yeah.
Because I went back to that kid in school that lacked the confidence to actually speak.
Yeah.
Because I know when I kept developing into my teenage and adult years, I was that student in the presentations that wouldn't do any of the work. So I had that going on too. But it was actually a confidence thing too.
Yes.
Like I wasn't confident enough to speak in front of others because it's like, well, I'm not like, it's like, what, well, why, what's that? What was it? It's like, do you like, it's like a thing of being seen and heard. It's like my opinion or my information doesn't matter. And that's like the perception I had of those people was that what I've got to say doesn't matter.
Yeah, I actually felt that too.
But then that's obviously, that was back to a past life thing we spoke about earlier too. So there was that as well. But yeah, it was like, well, my information and what I've got to say is not valid, or it's not.
People are not going to care. They're not going to listen. It's not going to get received.
Were you the same?
I think that a lot of my a lot of what I felt, because I know that I was brought up, and especially my grandparents were like, don't rock the boat kind of people. Don't don't make trouble. Don't make trouble. So if I was to speak out, it's like, shh, you know.
Yeah, same.
You know, it's obviously like, you know, it comes down to lineage. It's ethnic thing, whatever. Like I know that a lot of children of ethnic families, especially European ethnic families, will understand this. So you were silenced as a kid, just because they were all silenced as kids, and that's what they knew, and whatever down the line. But that also caused my throat chakra to just really shut off. But I did always love public speaking because I just really loved sharing. You know, I didn't mind like getting up and doing a presentation and stuff. I also don't mind talking to a big group of people. I don't mind being the loudest. But I think when it comes to like, when I didn't have to share anything about me, when I'm talking about things that I'm passionate about, that's not related to me, that's when I felt the most comfortable. But me actually sharing my story and being vulnerable is terrifying for me, and was, because it's like.
So how'd you break that barrier though? Because I broke the same barrier. So I want to just see how you broke that barrier.
Yeah. Do you know
and a lot of people will resonate with this too. So if you're hoping to share it,
I just got so fucking sick of myself.
At least you're honest.
Like just not doing it. I'm like, just get out there and just fucking say something. Like say what you want to say, share.
But how did it go? Like, did you sit with that? So whatever it was that you said, did you sit with it first and you're like, fuck? And then you just went, righto, fuck it, I'm just going to do it. And then you did it, or?
I was chipped away, because that's what makes me feel safer than getting in and doing it. It's like, I'm going to chip away. Like, but you can get wrapped up in the healer's journey, which I will also talk about, because I have been wrapped up in the healer's journey. And I'm like, oh, you just have to heal every single little thing. No, like you just work with it and it kind of falls away as you start doing things you want to do.
Interesting you say that. We might delve into this now, because this podcast was started exactly what you just said. It's like I sat with I probably should heal everything and then start the podcast. Well, as this podcast has turned out, if you listen to my 50 other episodes, I've healed something in every single podcast I've done. And I healed something today too. It's like, well, I'm actually healing live on camera and live on air to be vulnerable for however many people listen to this. It's like, well, I'm actually doing my healing journey for you live on air.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. You're actually healing as you're going.
Yes. Yeah. And I'm sharing my journey through that.
Yeah.
But I sat with the fact, I should have all this healed and then share. It's like, well, how about I just do it, go for it, and then just share it as I go. And that's sort of how it's happened for me.
You're like, if I'm talking about healing, I'm a fraud,
Yeah. I sat with that too. Like I said to my brother on Saturday night, just gone, that I was a fraud, because I was going back to some of the habits that I speak up about. Because I had those emotions we're talking about off air come up. I'm like, oh, God, I'm a fraud. And it's like, no, well, I'm being vulnerable by going back to those habits. I'll share why I went back there so that you don't have to make the same mistakes I did.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's what I felt like. I was like, I'm going to be a fraud. And I'm like, and then the other part of me was like, no, you're not. Like, this is your real story. But then every single person on TikTok and Instagram, people who are those thought leaders and those, people who provoke healing, they all have their own stuff that they deal with. I just remember like Joe Dispenza saying, someone asked him, do you get angry? He's like, yeah, I'll get angry. He goes, and I'll sit with it. But then I realized I don't want to be angry the whole day. So then I let it go.
Yeah.
We're still human beings. We're human being. The lowest density little meat suit possible is right now listening to this. You know what I mean? But we've come with the emotions, we've come with the ups and downs, You know, other realms don't really experience this much. That's why we're here to experience it all. We need to like enrich our soul. That's why we're here to get these lessons. So the healing journey comes with the ups and downs, but then you learn along the way how to best deal with that and go, okay, I remember the last time I felt like this. I dealt with it this way. So I'm going to try this way.
This way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Powerful.
Yeah. It's really kind of cool though, because you learn things and then you attune to it. And what comes up at the time, you're like, oh, I know how to deal with that. And then
you get better as you go. Yeah.
Yes. And that's why I said those loops become bigger. So when you go like the dark night of the soul loop in the start, you just all wrapped in your own shit. And then you come out of it and you're good for a little bit. Then you go back in and it's longer, but then it's like actually a bad acid trip. That's what it makes me think about. Like, but when as the loops get bigger, you're good for longer periods of time. Then you have a shorter period of time and you're not feeling the best, but because you've understood and integrated the lessons from your healing process, you go, okay, now I can tackle this.
Summed up my last month there.
Yeah.
So if anyone out there wants to know what my last month was like, just rewind that. Because I did this big whole dark night of the soul journey, which I've spoken about. But then the last couple of weeks, last few months, I've gone back into that and delved into it deeper. And it's fucking hit me for 6.
Do you just sit there and go, I'm so fucking annoyed at you? Like, I'm so off this. Like, I sit there and I'm like, you are so annoying. And then I'm like, no, hold space.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
But it's do you know what's really powerful that I've also realized I do as well? If I'm triggered by something or if something, I have like an emotional response to something.
Here we go.
I'll actually like step out and emotionally empathize with me and go, you know why? He goes, I know. I guess I get why you feel that way. I know why you feel that way. It's okay. It's like it's a form of self-soothing.
I love that.
Big time.
Because some things have activated me in the last couple of days, and just sit with just
kind of step. It's almost like you step out of your body and up, and you go, babe, it's okay. Like you experience this because of this. It's okay, and you just give yourself that love, and it really, really helps.
For those out there, what we're basically doing here on this journey is we're learning how to reparent ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
We're grateful for our parents for they just taught us and shown us what they were shown, and but we're actually learning how to reparent ourselves, and that's not a selfish thing. No,
not at all. And I think you kind of reparent yourself, and then you could have something that relates to somebody else, and this podcast I hope reaches people who have had experiences such as ours, and they go, oh my God, like I really need to hear that, like that makes sense for me. So you kind of the gifts that you retrieve on this journey and you understand, they're also they're to be shared.
They are.
I agree. To be shared, which is the reason why I wanted to start opening up and talking about things like this, but I've just been stopped for so long, and it's only in the last like couple of weeks, so I'm just like, nah, fuck it, like let's
you've on my last 2 episodes of my podcast in a round table, and you're going to be for those out there that listen to my stuff regularly, Louise is going to be a big feature in my podcast going forward. We've got some exciting ventures coming up. So
I'm so pumped.
No, we've definitely met for a reason, haven't we?
we have. It's beautiful. I love that beautiful integration of like 2 souls going, yes.
It's going to be awesome. Just in terms of your story too. So with your Dark Night of the Soul stuff, what was I going to ask you about that? Because I know for me and for men, we sort of tend to hide and suppress our darkness that we've kept hidden away from ourselves and from those around us.
Toxic masculine.
Yeah. Were you able to? I know it's probably different for women because, how can I even put this into words? I'm trying to ask you a question, and
go.
I'm being told to ask it by things greater than what we know. Obviously, I'm trying to ask you this question without trying to sound like a dick.
No, please ask me.
Did you have a boyfriend during your Dark Night of the Soul?
Yeah, the one I'm with now.
Was he going through his too? Because a lot of couples and stuff.
Yeah.
How did that play out for you?
I think
having that come up for you in such a real deep way.
Yeah.
Like, I know Nath will listen. Hi, Nath. I love our name, but it's a really question that I've been told to ask here.
Yeah. He, I think going through a lot of his own.
So it's going to help other women and
listeners. And I probably didn't think of him a lot in those times. I'm going to be really honest. I was just really thinking of me, because I just didn't know what I was feeling.
Yeah.
But also he just dealt with a really horrific death in his family.
Yeah.
And as men, you guys suppress, and he just suppressed that, and so he became angrier. So I think during COVID, everything is happening, so much negativity in the world. I'm going through dark night of the soul. He's trying to deal with like a death in the family that happened over a year ago, but like the anger part's coming out because he's trying to suppress the sadness. So we were both going through shit, but Nathan and I are, you know, we're soulmates. And I've been told before in meditation that like we're healing each other as we're going along. Like sometimes people like heal separately, then come together.
Well, they don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we actually have come together, and
that's awesome
together, and then blossoming. Because if I wasn't with him, wouldn't be with anybody else. Like he was just like, there's no one else in this world for me. And he said the same thing. He goes, if I
that's
wasn't
awesome.
with him, no one. That's
see, like, that's beautiful.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah.
So our healing journeys are together, and they're
so
integrated
cool.
together, but also separate.
Yeah.
So I'm a very much individual kind of girl. I've always wanted to maintain my own integrity and individuality in my relationships. I've had boyfriends like most of my life. Like I had like one boyfriend for 7 years, and then I was only really single for 2 years, and then Nathan came along. But I've never really I've never been a girl to obsess over wanting boyfriends. I've never really needed them. Never was like just like cool with whatever. But they just happened just to be around. So, you know, like we said before, my single life was very minimal. Like I didn't really have much of fun.
Yeah, difference of mine, as my listeners will know.
Yeah, like I was just running, like just doing my thing. But our journeys are meant to be healing together. I think beautiful. My journeys with relationships are quite transformative. It comes up a lot in my chart as well. I've got Pluto conjunct my moon in the 7th house, which is power dynamics. Moon is my emotions. 7th house is relationships, is both it would be both romantic and friendships, and they're in Scorpio.
You have to do my chart, Louise.
I'd love to do your chart for you. Yeah, I love.
We'll talk off air about
that. Yeah, so you know, I've got a lot of power dynamic and power struggles within myself, my emotions in the relationship part of my life, and so my relationships are like power dynamic, sort of dealing with that and coming to an equilibrium with them.
And that's played out too, hasn't it?
Yeah.
100%.
Your chart is like your blueprint. I can read what.
So for those that there'll be some listeners here that probably won't know what this is.
Oh yeah.
You want to just delve into that quickly, and then
Yeah. So you know, astrology is more than your little zodiacs that you read in New Idea, your little horoscopes.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah. Your little New Idea forecast that goes, oh, you know, Sagittarius is you're gonna meet someone in this month and blah blah. Like that's very baseline. And I never really liked horoscopes even when I was younger, but I loved astrology. I was like, this is really, really cool. So I studied it last year, and I know like a lot of it, and there's a lot that I'm still yet to learn. But your chart is wonderful because you're not just made up of your primary zodiac sign, which is why you have every zodiac sign. There's a baseline temperament, and then there's other temperaments of them, which makes up your ascendant, which is your avatar, who you are to the world, and your moon sign, which is your emotions and how you conduct those. You then have the other placements around the chart, which is all the rest of the planets like Mars and Venus and Jupiter and Neptune, all of them, and they all have a sign attached to them at the moment that you were born. It is your literal blueprint of who you are in this life. Now you have the option of free will, but astrology is a tool, right? It's everything that's in that chart is used as a tool for your best self. You're already integrated with this knowledge and this understanding and this way of being. It's all about how are you going to use the planet to move through. So such as like, you know, empowerment. Like I'm doing little like 30-minute like empowerment sessions where I'm actually reading to you like your sun, your Jupiter, your Mars, and your Venus. And they're all signs that make you feel the most confident, like the most confident version of yourself. So I'm tapping into all of those, what they mean for you and how you're going to integrate them and be your best self in the world. I can also pick up like, you know, I did a chart, like I think in January, I was at like Burley Pad with some of my girlfriends, and I pulled up a chart. This is like, and I was actually like drunk at the time. I don't drink anymore, but I was drunk at the time. I looked at the chart and I said to one of my girlfriends, I was like, babe, do you have problems with your mum? And she goes, yeah. How do you know? And I was like, oh yeah, your chart just tells me. And she's like, what the fuck, Louise? I'm like, yeah. I was like, you have Aquarius moon in the 4th house. I was like, yeah, mum and you are a bit weird. She's like, yeah. Yep.
Yeah, righto.
Yeah. So it'd be
Interesting.
interesting to do your chart. I actually would love to see where your family is, because I can
I'd like to know
family's
too.
like 4th house.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, we'll talk about that off air. I'm looking forward to I'll get you to sort me out with mine. Yeah, it'd be awesome. Anyone that wants theirs sorted out, reach out to Luiza. We'll put all her socials in the bottom.
Yeah, do it. Yeah. So that's astrology is very, very cool. And I really love it because it's such an in-depth way of learning. And it's very it's so much deeper than what everyone thinks it is.
How did you get into it?
I've just always loved it. I've
always as like a child, or
I've always loved it. Like I just always was obsessed that I was a Gemini, and I was like, this is like the coolest thing. And I just really loved it as a kid, and I was like, this is epic. And then I just remember reading about them, and like
that's just so cool.
Over time, it just like grew and grew and grew, and I just was obsessed with it so much. Then I understand like moon phases, moon cycles. Even though the moon's like put there, but like that's a story for another day.
100% your soul path, this, isn't it?
Yeah. Just
that's
kind
so
of
cool.
helping people just be like, just feel good. I love making people feel good. And I think that's what I used to really love as a kid. I used to really love like when someone would have good news, I just would be so happy for them, because I'm like, I'm so happy that you've had such good news. And and a lot of the times I never really got that back, but I loved when people were happy. I'm like, this is so cool.
Talking to you for the last 2 hours has made me very happy. So thank you.
Yay. I love that.
Our off-air chat, you made me pretty happy when I was telling you some stuff. So that was pretty cool.
I'm so glad. I'm here.
Yeah. I hope a lot of people will feel happy from listening to you for the last nearly hour. So thank you for sharing everything with me. It's been awesome.
You are so welcome. Thank you for having me. I've absolutely loved this. This has been awesome.
Yeah.
I'm gonna like have a lie down after it, because it's like so much energy.
Yeah, our energy was through the roof off air.
Energy was really like, like on our break before we started, my whole body was buzzing, and I was like,
yeah, same.
Cool, but I'm done.
I actually went out the backyard and stood in the wet grass just to like
I'm very elevated right now, but it's amazing. But I'm like, am I on this is something?
So I'll ask you a couple more questions and we'll wrap things up, because there'll be some young women that will listen to this. But before I get to that part of the questioning, I was just going to ask you if there is anything else that you feel is important to share in terms from your story. You might have,
something important I wanted to share.
Is there anything else there? Yeah. Before we get to the next couple of questions, I always ask my guests.
I think that, actually, one thing, really important. When you have like that, this is for anyone who is in friendship groups, or has friends, and just when the energy changes, when you have that little niggling thing in the back of your head, just making you not feel good about this person or not feel good about the situation. And I did a post the other day. It was like, think about how you feel before you go meet up with this person.
This could be not just for friendship, this could be for dating too.
This is so if you've made plans with someone and you go, oh, I don't really want to go, that's fucking massive message. If you're about to go say a piece of good news to someone and something stops you, you're not meant to share that, because they're not going to be as excited for you. They're not going to be happy for you. They're going to give you the evil eye. How do you feel when you've left a certain type of person? You've hung out with them, you've left them. Do you feel elated? Do you feel happy? Do you feel rejuvenated? Do you feel like are you driving away with a smile on your face, or do you feel drained, tired, and frustrated? These are massive, massive messages from your intuition that this person isn't for you. And you've maybe never felt like that before. It could maybe overnight, you could get like a bit of an ick. I've had icks many times with people.
Same.
All of a sudden, I'm like, oh no, not you. And then my higher self's like, yeah, babe. Yeah, it'll just switch, and you'll go, the energy will change within you, but it'll change also within them, and you'll kind of look at them in a different light. Like it's almost like the rose-colored glasses come off and you're like, oh my God, this person isn't for me.
Wow.
Yeah. Those things happen. And I've shared things like that, and people said, oh my God, like, this is a friend of mine, this is like my mom, this is, something like, I'm like, you'll notice that it's really niggly, but it's very loud. Like for me, it doesn't have words straight away. It's just feeling. And I'm like, oh, okay. And I'll ignore it, and then it'll be too late. So you'll notice that. But when it does start to happen, and you do start to feel like this person isn't right for you, when you start distancing yourself, it'll most likely, it could be seamless, or they could just really fucking hate it. But if you're not meant for someone, like, they will fall away. And if I don't listen to my intuition, mine just gets cut, like, it's in one day. That's it. It's really intense.
That's very similar to me, actually.
Yeah. It's really.
But you only just helped me remember just then.
There you go.
Yeah. So thank you for sharing that. You helped me again.
That's okay.
If there's a young woman out there, or a young person listening to this, or even a person listening to this that's resonated, they're about to start their healing journey, or they're about to start a journey. I find that the healing journey is a separate journey to the awakening of the truths of the world and stuff. I think they're separate journeys, but they all lead to the same thing.
Yes.
Which is to rediscovering who you are, remembering who you are, and how powerful you are, and what your soul journey purpose is. If someone's about to embark on their journey now, they've been triggered into action, and they're like, fuck, there's a lot here in terms of darkness and the darkness that exists in the world too, which is our darkness. What would be your advice to that person that's sitting there right now going, fuck?
Yeah, that's a really, really good question.
I ask my guests that all the time.
Because it steamrolls you.
Doesn't it?
It steamrolls. It comes in at all angles, like pew, pew, pew. You're like turkey slapped from all ends.
But it's your own, and it's universally too. Yeah. It's like both. Yeah.
And I do you know what? If I was to do it all again, I would really, I would first off make time for myself and just how am I going to put it? I would make myself feel okay with feeling these feelings.
I agree.
Yeah. Because we kind of almost like, why the fuck are you feeling like this? Like, why are you all of a sudden like sad? Like, why are you angry? You know,
it's like you're not supposed to be sad, but you are. It's like something there is like you don't be sad. It's like, no, feel it.
Yeah.
Yes, I 100% agree with that.
You're not depressed. You've just got like, you're just dark night of the soul. You know what I mean? Like, it's not depression. It's just like, you know, for some people it may be, but a lot of the time it's not. But I think you also need to really just like really love yourself in those moments. But if someone is going through, because the healing is different, you know, like you said, the healing is separate. And when you go into the healing part, you start to kind of pick apart what you need to write things down. Just let it out. And then when you keep writing, you may look back and find patterns in what you're writing. I know when I've been writing, I write patterns, same shit. A lot of the time in your journal, it's the same shit. And over time it tweaks. But if you still haven't healed it, you're still writing it. You're still feeling it. And it's that when you got to jump in and go, how am I going to fix this? How are we going to go through this together? Because it's not just you. There's like your higher self, there's your ego, there's your team, there's all like, how are we going to get through this together? You know? And sometimes your answers, you might not be awake to the answers, and sometimes the answers will just come to you in a different way. People that you meet, situations that you put yourself into. So I think I started like dissecting a lot, writing down, like letting it out, crying, you know, all those really healing like properties that you need. But when I started seeing it is when I started realizing what it was.
That's powerful.
Yeah.
That's really awesome advice.
Thank you.
Thank you for jumping on and being willing to jump on. I actually thank the universe for bringing us together for that women's roundtable. Thank Rani too, our mutual friend who sort of made all this happen. Yeah, she sort of, you know, was the powerful being that brought us all together, wasn't she?
She's such an angel. I just love her.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing all that today. Thank you for jumping on. And
you're so welcome.
This has been the Breaking Free podcast. I look forward to seeing you guys again real soon with some more awesome guests. A couple of women from the roundtable are going to feature. You're going to see Louise a lot of my podcasts moving forward. The women's roundtable might be a monthly occurrence. And I think I'll get Louise back on individually again to delve more into some other tangents and some other stuff that we've discussed off air as well. So,
well, if your listeners have any questions or anything further, I'm happy to answer them. But if there's anything that you and I should discuss, then we'll do another episode where we can delve into like certain questions.
If you have any feedback for us, reach out to us, ask us some questions. I'm sure if I get a question on the video or on any of the audios, I'll send it to Louise to answer. She'll jump on. She has access to these platforms too, so she can jump on and answer your questions too if you have a question for her, or not just reach out to her. All the stuff's in the bottom.
Yeah. Reach out to me. Like my little, I'm like either Imperium Goddess or Luiza, but Imperium Goddess is more where this work is. So
yep, jump on there. We'll put a links out in the bottom. Thank you for jumping on today, Louise. I'm looking forward to our collaboration. It's gonna be awesome. So
same. It's beautiful. I'm so excited for this journey.
For those out there, always reach out and ask for help too. We wouldn't be where we are if we didn't get help from different people or help from a variety of different sources. So always ask for help, and that's how we'll finish, I reckon. What do you reckon?
It's important. Yeah. There's healers and therapists and counselors and people who integrate this work as we're moving into like high dimensions, and we're all here for a reason to help each other.
We are.
Yeah.
Beautiful. And that's how we'll finish. Thank you for listening and watching, and I'll see you again real soon. Thank you, Louisa.
Thanks, guys, for having me.
See ya.